A damning report by the Productivity Commission released today has found that a significant number of super funds are underperforming and Australians are losing out on thousands of dollars. The report proposes that super funds that underachieve over a long term can be booted from the industry and suggests creating a short list of the top 10 best performing funds for members to choose from. Eva Scheerlinck is the CEO of the Australian Institute of Superannuation Trustees and she joins me now from Melbourne. Thank you very much for your time. Firstly, I'd like to get your reaction as a whole to the Productivity Commission report.
Yeah, thank you. It's probably the most comprehensive analysis that's been done of the superannuation industry since its inception about 25 years ago. So, we really welcome the report and the amount of work that's gone into it. And while we would agree probably with the majority of the findings in the report, their conclusions and recommendations for fixing it, we think deserve some closer examination.
Were you surprised at its findings? Because if you say that it's the most comprehensive report that has been done into the industry, it found that the current system is harming millions of members.
Yeah, look, that's right. Although you have to remember that the system is working for the vast majority of Australian workers. The Commission released an interim report back in May, and not many of their findings have changed between that interim report in May and the report that's been released today. The report does, however, make it very clear that the profit to member funds have been consistently outperforming the retail bank-owned funds now for a very long time, not just year on year, but over the entire history of the superannuation system.
I understand that you take issue with the idea of creating a best-in-show shortlist of 10 funds for people to choose from.
Yeah, that's right. So the Commission has identified that there are 29 underperforming funds in our system. However, there are 105 funds in our system. So limiting the choice down to 10 funds would see 66 funds that are performing really well on the outside of the competitive market, and we don't agree with that.
But you do agree with perhaps booting out those 29 underperforming funds?
Absolutely. There is no room in a compulsory retirement savings system for consistently underperforming funds. That's right.
I was surprised at the figures that people, if these recommendations are adopted, of the benefits for people, not just young people, but also people who are, say, 55.
Yeah, that's right. I think it makes a real difference to be in a high-performing, low-cost fund, and people really should pay more attention to their superannuation. They shouldn't necessarily wait for a government response to this report, but really look at their superannuation today to see whether they're in a right fund. Every quarter the regulator publishes and then the media prints the top 10 funds all the time. So we know who the top 10 performing funds are. We don't need this new system that the Productivity Commission is proposing.
The federal government has signalled that it's going to await the final report of the Banking Royal Commission before finalising its response to this Productivity Commission report.
Yeah, I think that's wise. Obviously, the Royal Commission examined a lot of evidence, hundreds of thousands of pages of evidence from super funds around the country. So they've had a look at some of the more intimate details of how funds are run, and I think it's really wise to wait for the outcome from the Royal Commission findings before the government moves forward with any reforms.
In the meantime, I imagine you'll be making your feelings known about this top 10 shortlist that is your major objection from the Productivity Commission report.
Yeah, that's right. We're, as an organisation, we have 50 not-for-profit superannuation funds in our remit, all very high-performing funds, and therefore, we're very keen, obviously, for people to be aware that if you're in a profit-to-member super fund, you're probably doing okay.
Eva Scheerlinck, I do thank you very much for joining us from Melbourne today.
You're welcome. Thanks, Serena.